Welcome back to another episode of the Conjugate Dads podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dave Chase, with my co-host, always with a different facial hair look, Justin Commandoris. Justin, how are we today on this Friday afternoon?
Great, and there's always an explanation too.
Did you screw it up again?
I took it too low, and I have said this many times that if I am not happy with the way that it looks, then it's just going to come off.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's definitely true. I think the beard looked a lot better than the goatee look, but either way.
Yeah, well,
it'll come back. That's a good thing about hair. At least on our face, it'll come back.
Yep.
On the head, for me, for sure, it's not coming back. But freshly cut head today, it looks like.
Yesterday, but fair
Yesterday.
enough.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, it looks great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, today's episode is sponsored, as always, by Common Athlete Performance Coaching. And, we're big protein guys, Justin. And something that we kind of talked about over the past couple of days before we hopped on to get a topic is this protein craze, so to speak, that we're seeing these commercials and these advertisements through our phones and even having these conversations with family members, at least for me, where I see a Starbucks ad where they're like, hey, we have protein infused coffees now, which I think is funny. And it makes me concerned that people weren't already eating protein, but I think it brings up the point of, and, just take me however you like, and you can just say if you disagree or agree. But it shows me that people are so, like, these retailers are focused so much on protein and getting protein in and paying for protein for their customers, or having their customers pay for this extra protein. They're not saying, hey, like, we want you to get active, we want you to get moving, right? Because Starbucks can't sell you a workout plan, but they can sell you 10 grams of protein or whatever it is in your coffee. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, but I do know that it leads into our topic, which I'll let you give me your thoughts first.
So I understand that the draw to having more protein added to something like that. I think, number one, I would question, like, what's the quality of the protein that they're putting in it. It's likely, especially at Starbucks, you can imagine it's like a soy vegan based protein it's like not going to be whey based or hydrolyzed whey or anything like that. It's going to be, soy or vegan based, or something that's not going to be as like a high quality type of protein. But it's super sexy to add protein to your coffee. And I think in the morning it's easy for people to just like, I'm going to grab a shake, you know what I mean? And then, I'll prevent my blood sugar from spiking if I eat a bunch of carbs or something like that. But I think what people forget is that specifically whey protein, but really any kind of protein, is still going to have a pretty significant blood sugar insulin reaction in the body that it does to carbohydrates. So I think maybe people are a little bit misled from like the health perspective on that. But look, if we're weighing, having some protein in the morning versus not having any at all, and just having that, sugar based, frappe pumpkin skinny martini latte, with cream and sugar first thing in the morning, then, I would say go for the protein based drink.
Right. And while you were talking, I just went to Starbucks. I just wrote Starbucks protein drinks on Google, and it popped up. It's protein.starbucks.com. So if you want to do this, if you're listening when we post this, but I ended up popping up a grande chocolate cream. It actually gave you like, what are your protein goals? I mean, I actually think that this is pretty cool that they're at least trying to give you the ingredients, brewed coffee. So this is a grande chocolate cream protein cold brew. It says, so 16 ounces, 330 calories. So that is a little high, right? And right away,
But
I mean, I'm guessing
compared to 700 or 800 that you get normally.
No, you're right. You're right. So I'll read the ingredients: brewed coffee, water, ice, cream, which is cream, mono, and diglycerides. Yeah, I always screw up with this one. Carrageenan. I know that that's in like their diet sodas. I think it's for coloring. Vanilla syrup, sugar, water, natural flavors, potassium sorbate, citric acid, milk, whey protein isolate, in parentheses, milk, sunflower lecithin, mocha powder, sugar, cocoa processed with alkali, natural flavor. The calories, 330 calories from fat, Justin. 140. 15 grams of fat, 10 of it's saturated, 0 trans fat, cholesterol 45, sodium 55, those are in milligrams. Carbohydrates are 28 grams, one of them being fiber, 26 sugars, 19 protein, caffeine's 215 milligrams. So you're getting 2,000 calorie diet. Let's just say most people do. This is 15%, right? 12%, something like
Yeah,
that.
and the bulk of all of those things that you mentioned is the milk
Right.
or the
Which
cream.
is going to be your
So
fat and your
they're
carbs.
calling it they're calling it protein, but they're
Hmm.
saying whey protein concentrate,
Oh,
but
it's
the
isolate.
isolate, but the parentheses is milk,
Right.
right?
So it's
So
like,
that's I mean, that's where whey comes from.
right.
But it's not whey, it's they're not like putting whey
But it's not
protein.
the scoop. Yeah. That's what I think. I knew it was coming. Like, of how are you? That's why I wanted to go to the website to
And
look at it.
again, 10 grams of protein, it's like, just go drink 8 ounces of milk, it's the
19.
same thing.
19.
19?
Yeah.
So, the milk and the cream, right?
Right. Right.
So,
Half of it's almost half of it is fat. And then the other, I mean, almost all the other half of it is carbohydrates.
the ratios are not in your favor, but again,
Well, you
that
said
just
it's
boils
better than
down to
drinking the protein than not. Yes, but
right. It's
it
just
makes you
convenient.
right. But also, Justin, what is something that, this is, my sister said this to me, and if she does listen to this, I love my sister, right? Love Sarah. But she said this to me a few years back. She had the stomach surgery, the same as my mom. I don't know if I've
The
mentioned that in past
bypass,
episodes.
gastric
No,
bypass?
the lap band.
Lap band, okay,
Yeah, the
laparoscopic.
lap band. Yeah. And just by no means, this is no hate to anyone, but by no means were either my mom or my sister anyone like you'd see on a TLC show. Certainly not.
Right.
But they wanted to lose weight, and they had this option, and it was great. So my sister says, "Oh yeah, well I put my Premier Protein into my coffee, and it's great." And I just looked at her and I said, "Sarah, I've been doing that for like 10 years." I said, "Don't you remember? You used to live at the house." And she's like, "Oh yeah, well, you did do that." So I was going to ask you, have you ever done that? Because I feel like that's a normal thing to do, and put
Okay,
black
so
coffee and just put the protein in and just be done with it.
well, yes,
Yeah,
it becomes almost like a so I don't personally do it, and let's just
yeah. But you like black
before
coffee,
we
though. I think we've had this
I
conversation.
do. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
drink,
do
like,
I. Yeah,
espresso essentially, but,
right,
I like
right.
jet fuel. But, before I say this, I'm gonna start with, like, let's just, like, hold the judgment until I finish saying.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
son, Jack, he got started probably a little earlier than he should have on coffee because of, my father-in-law allowing him to taste coffee, and he acquired, somewhat of a taste for coffee, and so
Hell yeah, Jack.
it's
Let's go.
now what yeah, now what we do is every morning we'll have well, he has this his a special cup for it's not this, but so
He's got a
we'll take
coffee cup.
about this much and put coffee in it just for taste, right? So no, we're not drugging the kid with 180 milligrams of caffeine. It's probably like less than 10 that goes in the
Yeah, I was gonna
cup.
say it would be less than 20 for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not.
and
It's not
then we
nothing.
take a vanilla Premier Protein and pour it on top of it and mix it up, and he drinks that every single morning.
Yeah, it tastes like a latte at that point.
That's yes, and it's not because I like, when he needs to get more protein so he can get jacked or whatever. It's like, no, he just likes that. He likes having that for breakfast, and then he eats whatever they give him at school, and that's just like his thing. He has one, and he doesn't want any more after that. That's all he wants. But he looks forward to that every single morning. So, I
Yeah,
mean, that example, my wife does the same thing. Like, again, I'm good with that. I think that I don't wanna go down the I don't wanna go down, like, the coffee rabbit hole, but I have seen with my clients, my female clients, because we know that women tend to be more stressed than men are, they have higher cortisol. What I will do is have them hold off on their caffeine until about 10 AM, and then I give them a window of 10 AM to 2 PM to drink coffee, and they after a couple of days, they feel so much better with that window, they're more energized because, again, caffeine does elevate cortisol, so it can make you a little bit more tired later on in the day. Some days I'll have it first thing in the morning. Some days I'll wait till 9 or 10 o'clock. Whatever. Do with it what you want. But I mean, I think if people are using that to get more protein, that's cool. But I think, and the kind of the point of this podcast is that what we're learning is that depending on, the context and the goal, protein may not be the most important thing for muscle and for weight
Right.
loss as we
Right.
previously may have thought.
Right. Going back to your point about delaying the coffee, I don't know if you, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole either, but I will say it is important to mention this is from the University of Arizona College of Medicine, Tucson Psychiatry. This article says, what's behind the idea of delaying your morning coffee? I don't know when this says this was released, March 5th of
God,
this year.
it's like I'm a savant when it comes. How do I know this stuff, but I'm not a
Yeah.
doctor? Look crazy.
I mean, I heard this before, but when you delay, so just here, I heard drinking coffee first thing in the morning can interfere with my ability to feel awake and lead to an afternoon crush. Is that true? It's an idea that's been popularized by online influencers. Avoid consuming caffeine for 90 to 120 minutes after waking up. They say you will perk up more naturally, thwart the dreaded afternoon slump, and have better sleep. Oh, you can scroll down a little bit here. Throughout the day, your body produces a chemical called adenosine, which binds to receptors in your brain and makes you feel drowsy. Caffeine perks you up by blocking those receptors, said Associate Professor Marilyn Cornelis, a caffeine researcher at the Northwestern University Feinberg School of Medicine. But you do not feel the same effects immediately after, said Dr. Michael Grandner, director of the Sleep and Health Research Program at the University of Arizona. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes for caffeine to be absorbed into the bloodstream, reach the brain, and make you feel more alert. So, of course, how long caffeine keeps you sharp varies considerably based in part on your genetics. That's from Professor Cornelis. And obviously, for and against caffeine delay, the evidence is there. Because adenosine levels in your brain decrease while you sleep, they are at their lowest immediately after you wake up, Dr. Grandner said. So, with little adenosine present for caffeine to block, a cup of coffee first thing in the morning will give you less of a boost when adenosine levels are high. This may be one rationale for delaying coffee in the morning. He said he often waits 30, 60 minutes after waking up to have his first cup, but there are no studies on when the optimal timing should be. It's more about personal preference. So overall, it does make the point. Waiting that 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up is not harmful in any sense. And if you have the adenosine to block, then I feel like you're going to be a little bit more drowsy. So why not just wait, right? And this is something
So
that I struggle with.
put yourself in a. I want you for 10 seconds. Put yourself in a single mom's
Hmm.
shoes, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you get up in the morning, okay?
Hmm. Yep.
And let's just say this person's working with you or I, right? The only time that they have to train is in the morning. So they get up and they they don't eat anything. They're slamming an energy drink or a coffee, and then they're training, and then they're running to get their kids to school and then or daycare, and then they're running to get to work by 8, 9 o'clock, right? So now now what we have done is we've taken cortisol wakes you up in the morning, right? So that's your alarm actually like makes you come to, but cortisol is what actually rips off the grogginess, right? So there's stress, okay? Then you're going adding coffee or an energy drink, there's more stress, right? So we're stacking stress. Then I'm training, there's more stress. So I'm stacking that. Then I'm doing all the crazy stuff to try and be somewhere because there's only so much time, right? So stress, 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 stress. No wonder by the time we get to lunch, everybody's feeling like crap because they're just stacking and stacking and stacking. So you can imagine that if you get up, and this could be as simple as half a banana and a hard boiled egg, right? You get up, you put something in your stomach because we know that there's really like only a couple surefire ways to lower cortisol, like in that moment. Walking is one of them, deep rhythmic breathing is another one of them, but one of the best ones is eating food, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if you're somebody that's slamming caffeine and then training and then stressing to get to work. You can imagine how good that person would feel if they ate just a little something before they trained, right? Got to work, ate a little something, and then by 10 o'clock, coffee. It's like it's a life changer, right?
Right.
Hopefully we can turn that into a 30-second clip because I think that could be really, really helpful content to use.
If we post the damn clips,
Yeah, that's true.
that's me calling out Justin on the clips, and then he can call me out for not posting enough clips on our YouTube. So if you are watching this on YouTube, who is our number one fan on YouTube? Jordan, is that his first name?
We have one or two of them. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Jordan.
Jordan. Yeah, I don't know how to say his last name. I don't want to screw it
Is
up.
it Yarborough?
I don't want to say the wrong name. I don't want to say the. Let me see here. I think it's Yoder actually.
Yoder. That's right.
Yoder. Yeah. I don't ever want to say the wrong name.
I'm sure there's a lot of Jordan Yoders out there too, so we're not like
Sure.
calling anybody out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but that's my frustration with social media is a whole other topic for
Yeah.
another day.
Well, I mean, and to like dissect what you said before we get into it. Yes, like it's stressful, that person that I'm now becoming. Let's say Melanie, single mom or single father, single anything, and it's a single parent, right? I'm doing all these things and the stress is going up. And it is an adjustment period. I'm not, it's like if you told me, Dave, for the next, it's like 75 hard, or neither of us really drink alcohol, but like, let's just say I drank alcohol every day. And then you said, hey, you're not drinking alcohol anymore. That is an adjustment period. And so I do think that first day that you don't have coffee, as soon as you wake up and you have the opportunity to go over and pour the cup, 10, 15, 20 days later, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't know about yourself, but I did a lot of pre-workout in the past, and now I hadn't had pre-workout in probably 3 or 4 years at this point, probably 5 actually. And it's just such a
Can you define that real quick just so we have clarity
pre-workout.
on what a pre-workout is? Because I agree. I'm the same
Yeah.
way, but
Yeah.
I want to like I want you to say what when you say pre-workout, what that means.
To me, that means a synthetic blend of products that is sold in a supplement store that is not like coffee. Like, I guess you could say coffee is pre-workout, but I'm not trying to be too granular about that. I'm saying, like, if you can buy it at a store and it's made by someone, then I think that is a pre-workout. If you're mixing in, I don't know, I guess beta alanine or like citrulline and you're making it, that is a pre-workout too. But yeah, I guess I haven't done a caffeinated pre-workout in probably closer to 4 years.
So he's just describing what would be like a super high stim,
Yes. Yeah.
like a
Caffeine.
a jacked 3D or
It's
what
probably
are
been
some
closer to 10 years on that one.
what are some of the other ones that are
What was that? Insane Labs? Insane Labs had a
yeah,
good one.
psychotic.
Psychotic. Yeah.
People
Yeah.
love that stuff, and to me, like, you kinda hit a threshold at a certain age where that stuff just does not agree with you anymore, and it
No.
does more harm than good, so I get it. I mean, I never
Yep.
did it,
Yep.
like, extensively. I remember one of my favorites back in the day was, the company Cytosport that made Muscle Milk. They made a pre-workout for athletes called Fast Twitch, and, back then it was 150 milligrams of caffeine, but it had some creatine and some pump in it, and that was some beta alanine. That was a good pre-workout. The OG NO Explode was legit, although I've told the story about what happens in your stomach when you take that stuff, and a lot of people puke.
Yeah.
And well, anyways,
Yeah.
yes, that stuff. You hit a certain point in your life where you just don't want to take it anymore because it's just not great for you. Uh, so yeah,
Just looking up other pre-workouts, like the C-Bum pre-workout, I think was popular when I still worked for the company that we both
I was
worked
trying
for.
to think of T4. I was trying to think of ones that people.
C4, yeah,
Yeah,
C4 definitely. And anytime anyone ever asks me, like, what do you think about a good pre-workout? And I say a good pre-workout is exactly what you say. I say, this is what Justin says. And I agree with him. I'm like, hey, if you can drink like 16 to 32 ounces of water with some pink Himalayan salt, maybe a little black coffee if you want a little something razzle dazzle. But other than that, get some sunlight on your face and just get in there, man. Like the
And
best
if you take
pre-workout
creatine,
for
you know,
you is
whatever.
sun. Yeah, creatine's fine, but like the best pre-workout for you is sun on your face, a good playlist that you really enjoy, and just being focused. And you don't have to. I mean, I was working out with Gage last week in the garage, and we just talked to each other. And like that was honestly the best way to get into it. It's like just chatting it up, going through the sets, grinding it out, and there's no issue with that. If you and I ever work out, I imagine we probably will just not have music. And if we do, that's fine. I don't care either way.
I will tell you, Dave, one thing I am really high on right now that I like to use is called, and it's not like super old, but it's been around for 10,
I'll look it up.
15 years, but
Yep.
a company called Biotest makes it. And if you know about the old T Nation articles and stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
that's the same company uh, as Biotest. And so they make a product called
Nice.
Surge. Surge has been around for a long time,
Is
but
this the thing that was made by it was two products. It was the creatine and the carb at the company we worked at. And I think Tony actually from CCon told me like this Surge used to be like a thing that he really
yes,
liked too.
and it is a thing still. It's
Yeah,
just I don't think like it's
I
not
see it.
super mainstream because it's more expensive, but you can get it on Amazon now. So
I see it.
this has highly branched cyclodextrin coming, so it has cane sugar for the
Yeah,
flavor, citrulline, malate, L-leucine, betaine, beta-alanine, and then all of your electrolytes, your potassiums, your sodium phosphate,
yeah,
sodium
I'm looking at it.
citrate,
Yeah,
and it's sweetened with stevia, I believe. So I will, and what I'll do is I'll take that and I'll mix it with creatine. I'll put some creatine in it. And to me, like, and you can take this post or you can take it before. I like to take it before,
yeah.
and
Says you can do intro too, right?
you can do intra. Yeah.
I think
I'll
pre or post is probably better,
yeah,
honestly.
but dude, I mean, like that stuff. Now,
Yeah, this
again,
looks great.
for the person trying to lose weight, is that 34 grams of carbs like that necessary? Probably not. So you could just, you know, leave off the carbonate the carbohydrate form and just use things like citrulline, beta-alanine, betaine, and
Right,
creatine
right.
in pink salted water with maybe a little lemonade pack or something to make it
Hmm.
taste good. Boom, you're ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I know that this podcast was supposed to be about something else, but then it became about protein and supplements. So let me get into what Justin actually wanted to talk about, which I love. We were talking about the protein craze, and it kind of ties into today's topic, which is protein's great. Make sure you get your protein, but getting a gram per pound of protein, Justin, as you said in our text, not as important as strength training. And this is why strength training is still king. So you can give me your opening thoughts.
So this came from a couple of different avenues and for my thought process. So like I was listening to a podcast that had Stan Efferding on it, and they got going down the road on like what's the appropriate amount of protein. And I'm gonna preface this with kind of similar into how he prefaced it, in that everything's gonna be context appropriate for like what your goal is. But when you're looking at, and it's not that protein isn't important, number one, but most importantly, when you're comparing, let's just say that we're comparing, what the most important things are, because right now there is the GLP-1 craze going on and people losing a lot of weight and people making a big deal out of, a good portion of that being a loss of muscle tissue. I think what a lot of people are doing, because this is what they've been sold on via their doctors and social media in the past, is that if you keep your protein high, because all they have to do is just slam, they think I can just slam premier proteins all day, get my 120 grams of protein, and I'm good to go. What people are missing, and it's so obvious, David, it's right there in front of us, but what good is that protein to building lean muscle if there's no stimulus for
Yeah.
that muscle to be built in the first place? Well,
You do spreadsheets all day. You're not gonna get like Dave Bautista back in the day.
right. So I'm drinking, I'm pounding this protein. That's great. You're getting the effect of like satiety, and you're getting, it's helping with your skin because protein again, you're not wasting protein. But if there's no stimulus to signal muscle being broken down, and then the process of anabolism and building it back, and hypertrophy, then what's really the point in taking all of that protein, right? So if we're weighing the difference, what's more important for somebody that's trying to build muscle or somebody that's trying to lose weight or whatever, it's the stimulus, right? So if we took somebody that, and this is what the study supports, so like I'm not making this up. If we took somebody that was not strength training, but they were getting in, let's just say, an adequate amount. So zero 0.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, right? Or body mass compared to someone that's consuming that same amount of protein, but they are strength training. The strength training person is going to get far better results in maintaining or gaining lean muscle tissue. And that's just the facts.
Yeah. Is this the just to I was looking up Stan Efferding's like latest. Is this the one that he did with Derek last year?
No, it was like
Okay.
the Superhuman Life podcast or something like that.
Okay. Um,
It was from
I was
back in June, but
okay.
it wasn't like a it wasn't like a big, long, drawn out topic that they discussed. They were discussing like different diets, which that's another thing that we can kind of get into. But
Well, we've done that too. Yeah, we've done that.
right, but the 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 reality is, it's just that that action is going to be far better in terms of strength training, and having that stimulus is going to be far better than if you were going to just consume protein but not train.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely. Yeah, and definitely training over not training is going to be the easy choice or of what we think is best. But also, as we said, like strength training is king. But also, he does say here in this interview with Derek from More Plates, More Dates, he says, see if I can find it. You would probably need less protein if you're enhanced because you would become more efficient. So if you are taking performance enhancing drugs, now if you're in a calorie surplus and pushing carbs more, now that's protein sparing. So he does say he'd like to get more protein in for people if they're in a calorie surplus, but it doesn't take a lot of extra protein to build muscle. Even in enhanced, you're not going to build muscle at 10 times the rate of a natty. You just want to be in an efficient surplus. The only reason I would be cautious, one of Thor's or Lane Norton's biggest challenges was being able to eat enough calories. And obviously, as said, like the same stuff as us, the best diet is the one that you'll follow. I mean, you can do any diet that you want or any meal plan that you want. Anything can be followed, but you just have to like it. You have to be able to do it.
well, and again, like we're comparing what's going to be better, right? Like
What was the
if
podcast that he was on?
like the superhuman something or other,
Okay,
um,
I'm gonna look it up.
just keep that in mind. Like we're not saying that if you have somebody like he mentioned, Lane Norton's a very like a world renowned power lifter, and then he's also very smart too. People know him for his doctorate stuff, but
Bodybuilding.com, right? Wasn't he like one of the like most published guys on
probably,
there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but if you look at it's called the Superhuman Life.
Yeah. Is this the one from June 30th? I'll have to
Yeah.
listen to it after this. Yeah, I'll give it a
If you're
listen.
taking somebody that is a power lifter and they're strength training hardcore and they're not eating enough protein, yeah, like the outcome isn't going to be as good as if they were eating enough protein. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is a lot of these people that are doing these extreme diets or these extreme drug, not extreme, but they're taking, GLP-1s to lose weight, they're in their mind, it's like they've been taught that it's more about protein. And the reality is the combination is obviously going to be the best outcome, right? But
Right. Right.
if you were to compare one to the other, the stimulus is always going to be better than the actual protein. Like if we're comparing which is going to be more important. And I think that's just like an overarching theme that we end up talking about on this podcast is how important strength training is. And I
Yeah.
think again, like, you know, I think there's being all of this hoopla made about not only about protein, but about how muscle mass impacts longevity. And this is why context is so important because, you know, all these big juiced up bodybuilders are like, well, I've got 300 pounds of lean muscle tissue. I'm going to live forever. And we just know like that's not what we're saying. What Dave and I's example of somebody that's jacked and has a lot of muscle is going to be completely different than what's being referenced in literature is probably a guy that's like 6 feet tall and weighs 185 pounds and is
Yeah.
probably like 12 to 15% body fat, somewhere in that ideal range, right? That's going to be what the, going from somebody that has no muscle to that is going to add, a lot to your life. But ultimately, like if, set the context aside, if you get stronger and you improve the quality of lean tissue on your body, yes, you're going to live longer. Like it's just that's just the reality of it if we're putting context aside. But everything is going to be context dependent. Like I don't need to be 245 pounds when I'm 65 years old. Like it's just not going to be conducive for my life to be that big at that point. I could do it now because I'm younger, but at some point, like some of that's going to have to come off for me to continue to have that longevity. And as long as I maintain that strength for the most part,
Yeah.
then I'll be good.
And that's why you look at older versions, right? And even yourself, right? And you're like, this person looks bigger. Like every time I see you, I'm like, he looks like he's gained weight. And you tell me, like, no, like I the same weight as the last time. It's just, but you're getting stronger. So it's like, you do look bigger. I was just writing down if you could blind rank these, or not blind rank them, but I'm going to tell you the 5. And I want you to
Mhm.
tell me how you would rank them. I just wrote them down the way I would think. Strength, mobility, rest slash recovery, nutrition, and hydration. How would you rank those as number 1 through 5?
Can we add
We're gonna add a 6th one. Yep.
just throw in conditioning in there because I think that should be in there too.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yep. All
Or
right.
cardio, whatever you want, or zone 2.
I
Let's
think
say
conditioning is fine. Yeah. So strength, mobility, rest slash recovery, nutrition, hydration, conditioning. How would you rank these? This is gonna be a fun podcast for everyone to just watch you rank them. I have 1 through 6. Do you want me to write them down too in a text?
No, I'm just strength,
Yeah, that's what I had as my number 1.
and a close second would it has to be nutrition because that drives
Really? Okay.
all things, right? Um, then conditioning.
Yep. Well, I didn't have conditioning on my list, so now my
So
list is all
1
fucked up.
strength, 2
Yep.
nutrition, 3 conditioning.
Yep.
Again, I'm probably severely opinionated, so don't take my word for everything.
Yep. You've got mobility, rest slash recovery, and then hydration.
So I think to make it 5, hydration and nutrition should go together.
Okay. The other one I didn't put on here is like medical, like I'm not gonna say here like, Rich Piana was like, oh hey, his strength was fucking insane. His nutrition, hydration, his conditioning was probably pretty decent. Um, in some ways. But he wasn't healthy, right?
Right.
Because his blood work, I imagine, probably wasn't great. So I would say that like,
Yeah, but if all things are being equal, right? Like what we're referring to as like strength and
yeah,
nutrition and like
hydration,
that's
yes.
going to be different than you know what I mean, than what his outlook on those things
Yeah.
were because he
Well, I
was
guess what I mean is you could add one and say like blood work.
sure,
I mean, it's
sure,
probably like gonna be number one, right? If you're not,
sure.
but it
So
falls into line with everything else.
so we've got strength, nutrition, conditioning, I
Yep.
think mobility.
I knew you would say that. Yep. Mobility and
It's
then rest
mobility
slash
and sleep
recovery.
are going to be like again because
Well, you got
this
to
is
rank
where you
them.
get
You don't try to put them together.
this is where you get messed up because what and I'm gonna quote Stan. If you're if you're eating clean, you're strength training, but you're sleeping 3 hours a night, you're stepping over $100 bills to pick up nickels.
Right.
So
Yep.
I think it's important for people to understand, like, you know, I would venture to say that the average person gets 6 to 7 hours of sleep at night. So if they're just doing that, then it's not going to rank for longevity purposes or results purposes. It's not going to rank as high, but it's in that five, right? Like, those are very important. This notice, we did not say anything about supplements. We did not say anything about drugs. We did not say anything about those things
I
are
didn't put Trent isn't number one. Oh,
no,
thought it was.
no,
Hypothetically speaking,
yeah,
only.
I, we'll not go there. For anybody that knows, I'm very opinionated on how I feel about that drug, and I think
Yeah,
it's
it's your
awful.
favorite. We know. Yeah, it's your favorite
Yeah,
drug.
I
Yes.
don't think anybody should ever use that in their entire life. I never have. I've tried some other things, but that's not one that I'm willing to flip the coin on.
Yes. Justin loves Flintstone gummies. He's
Yes,
told me that he's invested
yes.
heavily into that.
You
Yep.
know, I when I was in high school, all the good things were just coming out then, like cell tech, um,
Yep.
like,
Oh yeah.
explode. And my dad was like, "Hey, if you want this and you feel fine about it," like, there was no, like, now it's like, oh, if my kid, I get the question like, how old's my kid got to be to take creatine? And it's like, well,
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
I don't know. I started at 12, so let's just go with that. I'm fine.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
and then Theo was getting upset a few weeks ago because Emily was drinking a protein shake, and he was like, "I want what mommy has." And I said, "I don't." I was surprised that she let him have a sip, but she's like, "What is it going to do? Like, it's a sip. It's a sip of protein that we buy at a grocery store. Like, give
well,
me a
and
break."
whatever she's getting, he's getting anyways.
Well, we don't do that anymore. He's over a year
Okay, but
old, but yeah.
okay, so I mean, like, all that stuff, like something like creatine is going to come from food anyways. So it's just
Right.
the amount.
Exactly. Right.
So yes,
Yeah.
I'm not like everybody used to joke with me like my mom, you know, took creatine an hour before she breastfed me, and that's how I ended up the way that I am. Or she was spiking the breast milk.
Hmm. What an odd
Anyway,
joke. I mean, I've never
yeah,
met your mom, but what an odd joke.
yeah. But and she'll probably find that funny because I don't think I've ever told her that. But anyways,
You got
thanks, mom.
you got jacked because your parents supported you and you saw an interest in it and they said sure, and then you fell in love with it, and then you continue to do it for the next 30 years and so
Yeah,
on. So
go
that's
figure.
why.
So, yes, I would that's how I would appropriately rate those things.
Yeah, I like it.
Again, I can't sit here and say strength is the mother of all qualities, and yes, you can't gain a lot of those qualities without the nutrition or the sleep or different things like that, but all things being equal, let's just say we're doing all of those things, right? How would I rank them if we're doing all of those things? That's how I would rank them. Because if you remove being strong and having muscle from that equation,
Yeah. Yep.
your longevity significantly decreases,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I just don't see a place where people like aren't actively trying to get at least a little bit of sleep. So it's just one of those things in my mind where if like all those things are being done,
Yeah.
I still would.
Well, and looking at this list now, and I'm thinking back to my parents, and you've already told me your parents' situation with, your dad like supported you a lot, like weightlifting and stuff like that. Mobility, conditioning, and the strength really kind of hit. I mean, all five of these things I would say my dad does not do for sure, right? But the mobility, I didn't get to tell you this. So they tried to go to the Patriots game a couple weeks back, and he didn't make it inside because he was trying to go from the one part of the parking lot to another for a tailgate, and he ended up falling. And it was very, just upsetting that happened. But I can't say I'm surprised by it. And he did get checked out by a paramedic, and then they ended up going home. But he did bust his face, and um, we were supposed to be doing some exercises, right? We talked about it on this podcast before. We should have been weightlifting for the last 15, 20 years, right? The food and the hydration, not as much now. When you do dialysis, you actually cannot take in as many fluids as someone like yourself or myself. And then the rest recovery. Yeah, I mean, going to sleep and nod off. But mobility, conditioning, and strength, it's not there. And you pay the price for it, right? You lose your independence. And I guess it just makes me think, if you're not working out, you have to understand that if every other thing isn't as good as it can be, you're going to suffer greatly. You're going to bust your ass. You're going to hurt yourself because your body cannot do everything by itself. You have to be able to go and make time to create those adaptations.
Here's like this is like the end all example. If we take two people and let's just say they're both eating just a very basic neutral American diet with some whole foods and some ultra processed
Mm-hmm.
foods, right?
Yep. Yep.
We take one person and we have them do strength training, and we take the other person, they don't do anything. Who's going to be healthier?
It's going to be the one that strength trains, of course. Yeah.
I don't. So again, like, can we? I think like that issue is just like put to bed if you're comparing those two things. Now, yes, the nutrition is like how you control your body composition,
Right. How
right?
you're going to look at
Right. But
240 pounds. You could look
if
like a big
that
ass blob at 240
right,
pounds if you didn't work out.
but
Yeah, for
but
sure.
the type of nutrition that you're consuming for those two people, one is going to a lot more processes that's controlling metabolism compared to the other that's just going to probably storage, right? One thing that you mentioned that I just want to make sure that's on that list is I want to make sure that we're appropriately defining mobility compared to flexibility, because these are two
Oh, I'm
completely different
sorry.
concepts
Yes.
that get confused. And so mobility will refer to the body's ability to move a joint actively and with control through its full healthy range of motion. So what's the components of that? It requires muscle
I was like,
strength,
yeah.
stability, and neural control within that range. So, an analogy would be being able to perform a deep, controlled squat with proper form, which would lead to more mobility, but also more motor learning of that pattern, versus flexibility is the passive ability of a muscle to lengthen or stretch. Okay, primarily concerns the length of the muscles and the connective tissues, the tendons and ligaments, and then being able to passively reach down and touch your toes. So again, we know we know now that if you don't hold a stretch for, let's say, 2 minutes or more, it doesn't affect flexibility or mobility whatsoever. Enhancing your mobility is going to be directly impacted by using a full range of motion with gravity, for a weight pushing you through that full range of motion, right? So those two things are uniquely different. But if you're doing all this stretching and all these different things, and you're not holding these stretches for upwards of 2 to 3 minutes, you're not going to have the same impact. Let's say somebody that does yoga versus somebody that strength trains and
That was like a
does
static stretch.
some
Which Emily's on my ass about that every time we work out in the fucking garage, thanks to you. She goes,
I
yeah,
my
Justin, you should be doing the static stretch, Dave. I know. So, you know what? This is my stay.
that's in there for a couple reasons. It's not necessarily about Dave increasing his mobility, right?
Yep.
Because
Yeah, for sure.
when I tell you I want you to use a 12-inch box compared to an 18-inch box, that's me saying, okay, I need him to gain some more range of motion for his
Yeah,
squatting, because it's
absolutely.
important that we cover all these bases when you box squat a lot. So if we're box squatting more, then you're going to see more split squats or Bulgarians or step ups, things that enhance mobility through enhanced range of motion. So the the static stretching at the end is more about bringing you down to back to that normal homeostasis
Right.
through proper breathing, but then also starting the recovery process by allowing, number one, to make sure that you're not losing range of motion. but number two, to get some good blood flow and all those things in there. So a lot of the mobility work that I do is going to be, or all of it really is going to be through strength training. And
Movement. Yeah.
if you're somebody listening to this podcast, all eight of you, and
Hey, we might be up to
you're
10.
training through partial ranges of motion all the time, then you're somebody that needs to start focusing more on your mobility by increasing the range of motion that you do. And the most simplistic way, so like everybody always used to knock West Side because of the box squats. Oh, the box squats are, you know, they're cut a little bit high, you know, that they're not going all the way down. You know, what's parallel defined as the hip crease, 90-degree angle, blah, 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 blah. Those are people that, number one, they don't understand the inside concepts of that system. Number two, no one, Louis never posted a lot of the lower body accessories as much as he did box squats because that was their big claim to fame. But those guys were doing Bulgarians, they're doing split squats, they're doing step ups, they're doing all of these things, the GHRs, the reverse hypers that are enhancing, all of the accessories are actually enhancing their mobility. So yes, if they're cutting those box squats a little bit high because they're geared powerlifters and they can only go down so far, right? That's their sport. Same thing with athletes.
Right.
I don't
Kevin
feel
Durant or LeBron James does a quarter squat and
right.
people
I mean,
blast him online and they go, I don't think you understand what the goal is of this athlete, and this trainer, I would hope, understands the reason too. And just because you're some guy in his, as Nick Saban likes to say, in his mom's basement, doesn't mean your opinion's right.
right. So I would say I 50% agree with that
Yeah.
in
There's
that
context to it. Yeah.
there's the context would be I do question LeBron James's strength coach because I some of the stuff that he does. Now, the other side of it is the average male height is 5'8". The average male is going to be really good at squatting because of the way that they're built. LeBron James is 6'9". Why, if we're looking at specificity, at no point in basketball is anybody going ass to grass and then jumping up in the air. It just doesn't, like, they don't need to do that. They need to be fast and explosive so if they're doing, a quarter squat, which I do think there's a place for, and there's data that supports that, compared to like a parallel squat, which there's also a place for, compared to box squatting to parallel. Again, it depends on how you're defining parallel because everybody has a different definition of that. But the average, let's just say the average power squat is relatively parallel, right? Why are we even having this discussion on whether or not it's important for an athlete to go all the way to parallel, or if he's just, oh, that squat, he squatted 600. It's just, he didn't go all the way to parallel. Are you
Yeah.
insane?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
the person that's
by the
saying
way,
that probably do 185
yeah.
to below parallel, and that's
But
it.
by the way, we've got not only just LeBron James, but Mike Mancias is his trainer. Rob Gronkowski and Myles Garrett, I'd say two of the best at their position to ever play the game. I do think this guy, I mean, he's talking about it here, like the big issue or big areas of the foundation. He says here, I'm watching the video: core, movement, mobility. Let's see here. I think he says balance and endurance, like all that sort of stuff. So it's like, yes, we need to work through, but it's not someone who is just trying to get the strongest they ever have. I am trying to get strong for my sport. It's Ben Bruno, same thing with Klay Thompson, Halliburton.
So my okay. So I'm going to use a DeFranco quote here, and you may remember this from doing the CPPS like I did. I
Yeah.
remember him saying, like, if someone is looking in the window at your gym, you're a direct reflection, or your athlete is a direct reflection of your training style and how good you are as a coach, right? So I think people see LeBron doing some dumbass shit at his house, and they're like, well, if his coach is teaching him that, versus in comparison, I will say, and again, two different, like, basketball isn't as much as a power sport as football is. I will say, like, Myles Garrett gets after it, and if you see his, like, training montages, he's squatting heavy, he's squatting to parallel, but again, those guys, they're at the prime of athleticism. Even LeBron at
Yeah.
41 is still incredibly
Still a
athletic.
top he's still a top 5 athlete in his
Yeah,
sport, and he's
and I
41
would
years
say,
old.
like,
Yeah.
how much of that stuff is going to have, an impact on how they perform their sport, which is completely different to what we're discussing here. We're discussing, like, longevity and strength and
Yeah, we're
muscle, right?
discussing Gen Pop and
I
your
don't know.
grandma or your uncle or a regular guy who works out. I mean, before we get on here, like you and I both, like, hey, like we got to find a way to get our steps because if we don't get out and about, we went from a job that was getting us 10,000 steps easy to, I would say, your job, if you did not walk daily working from your computer, you're probably at 1,000.
Right.
If you decided not to walk.
Yeah. I will get antsy, like I have to,
Yeah.
Dave. It's just so for the average person, like, removing that amount of movement and continuing to eat the same amount of food that you ate in the
Yeah.
past will
Yeah.
equal weight gain, right?
Right. And it's long
Or
term, it's a short term,
yeah.
risk and then a long term, like damaging
So
possibly to your
I
long
I
term
I
goals.
have to fight that internal battle of, like, again, for me, it's I have to look at I have to do these things.
Yep.
Not only for my health, but because of the job that I do, I have to be able to look the part. And if I'm not doing those things, then who am I to tell other people to do those things? So I have to do those things.
Yeah.
But
Well,
also,
you have the duty too of like, hey, like I want to be here for the next 40 years, 50 years if I can. I got Megan, I got 3 kids. Well, I got my parents. I definitely want to outlive my parents. I want to live until
yeah,
I'm 90 plus. It's like, yeah, so I have no choice but to do this because I know enough. If I do it, then the chances of me getting there 40, 50 years from now are actually very good.
correct. Correct. So again, like, all of those things have relevance, but it all comes back to that. If we have this dry erase board and you start throwing all of the things fitness related, health related onto that board, no matter what they are, to me, strength is still going to end up at the top
Yeah, it's an
of that
umbrella.
board,
It's an
right? It's
umbrella,
like
and at the very
an
top of the
umbrella and everything
umbrella
kind of
is
right.
here, and then you can just kind of do this. But if you don't hit this, the umbrella is going to have a hole, and that rain's going to just fall right on you.
Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
dude, good luck going and strength training and then not wanting to eat food. Like, you can't just say, "Oh, well, nutrition's more important because you die if you don't eat." It's like, dude, think about we're comparing one thing to another here. Like, I'm not saying that nutrition isn't the most important thing because it's right up, it's a close second, and that's why I put it second. But if you if we're picking, like, you can have a decent diet and then not strength train, or you can strength train and have a decent diet, like, the strength training person's going to kick butt 100% of the time. It's just what it is.
Absolutely. I'm making my little umbrella right now. But where does flexibility go then on this umbrella? I mean, does it still go at the bottom?
I or are we saying flexibility or mobility?
I put mobility on there, but flexibility I think is still relatively important.
I think it's a slash flexibility slash mobility, but I think mobility is right there next to sleep, like either above or below it. But again, if you're strength training and you're doing the right things, you're covering that base, right? But if
No,
you're some
exactly.
jackwagon that's not using full range of motion on 75% of the exercises, then you're not getting the benefit of mobility. And if you're just walking around, and I'll be the first person to admit, like, with my shoulder, my right shoulder, the range of motion is super bad, right? But I'm my prescription for that is doing it, which I really have just been doing it the last, couple weeks. Golf helps, right? It does help, but I've been implementing the dead hangs again. So, you know, that it's not about the grip, because I can hold myself up for 2 minutes, right? That's how long you're supposed to dead hang for to get the benefits of opening up the lat and the shoulder, right? But it's more about the
Supinated or pronated? Does it
just
matter?
Traditional, just
Okay.
traditional. Yeah,
Yeah.
you wouldn't do it like this because you'd put your bicep in a,
Right.
a
That's
bad
why
position.
that did not seem like a good idea,
No,
but yeah.
no. But, number 1, when it comes to building muscle, I mean, the stretch aspect is, um, pretty high up there with mechanical tension, and I think the best analogy or comparison there is, like, look at any gymnast that that is just jacked, has big biceps, right? They're not training their biceps. They're in a stretched position 24/7 and then going from stretch to, contraction, right? And they just gain all of this muscle and strength that way, relative body strength. And so what we know is if you have enough of that stretch there. So my mindset is like, okay, I'm gonna gain some mobility through my shoulder. I'll open up the capsule by doing the dead hangs. So I'll start with, I'll do 30 seconds to a minute or until I just can't take the pain anymore. And then I'll add a band to release some of my body weight around my knee while I'm hanging. And then eventually I'll go from 2 minutes like that to 2 minutes with a 5 pound weight hanging and then a 10-pound weight and so on and so forth. And eventually that will not only increase my mobility, but I might gain some muscle in that manner too. And then I use the monster bands, the ones that are like this thick.
Yeah.
I'll hang
Like the
them.
big blue? You're talking about like
Big
the big
blue.
blue?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll hang them over the rack where the pull-up bar is, and I'll put my arm through underneath in the
Like a
armpit,
sling.
and
Yeah.
I'll just go all the way down. And what that does is it tractions out the shoulder. So you're
Yeah.
able to gain some mobility that way through the lat and through the shoulder capsule. And I get done with that, dude, and it's not infinite. Like it does go away if you don't do it, but that traction, man, that traction really opens up. And so I'll go from that, either the dead hang or from the traction, and then I'll go into like a moderate weight lat pull down. Because in order to gain the mobility, there still has to be a load there involved, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to go into a pull up because that would be just too much tension and it would be probably problematic. But going into a weighted exercise after you do a stretch is or mobility work is probably the best way to actually gain
Mhm.
mobility versus going down and touching your toes for 30 seconds. Like, dude, you're not doing anything.
You've opened it up. Yeah, you've opened it up and now you're actually able to create some adaptation because it's warm versus you going in cold and trying to do it. And now you might actually be at more risk for injury.
Yeah. And
Yep.
again, like, why not just do the lat pull down and hold the stretch at the top? Well, it's not the same, right? I'm not going to put 240 pounds on the lat pull down and use bad form to do 10
Right.
reps, right?
Well, I got it done. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not using full range of motion, and it's not going to be the same angle as me just dead hanging from a pull-up bar. And if you don't have the prerequisite grip strength, what should you do? Use straps, right? Just get up there, strap yourself to it, and let it yank you down, and that will provide what I believe to be enough stimulus to
But you also would
open up
hope
your
that,
shoulder and your lats. Now,
yeah,
Dave, what's my problem with that is I just forget to do it. So I'm going to be doing it every day now, and I won't forget.
that's the band and stuff that you're always like telling me to put in like daily. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like I need you to put it
Yeah.
back
Well,
in.
guess what? Guess what? I'm the same way. Like I'll just forget.
Yeah.
And as soon as stuff starts to get achy, if my elbows get achy or
You're
my
like,
knees
it's
get
going
achy,
back in. Yeah.
the minute it comes back, the minute you start doing it again, it goes away. It's not infinite. You have to stay on it. And Louis used to say this all the time, like his sprinters, 200 band curls a day, right? No hamstring problems. They go back to school, they start sprinting, they stop the band
Yeah.
curls, they pull a hamstring.
Have you noticed the injuries in the NFL lately with the hamstrings, the groins, the foot injuries? I mean, I I don't think we can control that. I think that that maybe has something to do with the surface. And of course, the players and the strength coaches have nothing to do with that. But if your strength coach, I don't know if you looked up like the Chargers injuries, but they have a lot of injuries. That
Yeah,
strength coach, a
they're
lot of people are looking at the
screwed.
strength coach and saying he sucks. Like he's the issue.
So I would say, because mainly we're talking about their offensive line, up
Yes.
to the point where they had that full fresh offensive line, they were the best O line in the league. Like Joe Alt didn't give up a sack,
Slater was good, but
and
he
Slater
tore
was
it
good
the
too.
right before the game. Yeah, right before the season started.
And so, yes, if it was like when you hear about guys like tearing a pec or a bicep or a tricep, those are things that probably could have been prevented with strength training, with the appropriate strength training and mobility work. But those soft tissue injuries I are silly. I still don't, with all of the monitoring tools now that they have, that's usually when someone pops a hamstring is because they have just gone over what their capacity is. And so they have these monitoring tools now that allow them to see where it's when someone's at full capacity or when someone's kind of overreaching. And you shouldn't be overreaching during the season. So they'll cut their reps in practice. For instance, like receivers and DBs, right? They'll
Right.
cut their reps so they don't get any of those overuse injuries. So to me, like when those things happen, either they're not implementing enough strength training during the season, or they're not working up to like 90% full sprints at some point. Like you should still be doing some speed work during the season. Yes, I know the guys are doing a ton of running, but they're not doing like true speed work in order to like maintain their top speeds and their elasticity. So I think that's where a lot of these guys are getting the soft tissue injuries. Now, the ACL, Joe Alt got rolled up. Like there ain't a thing you could do about
No,
it.
yeah, he has a high ankle.
But it's an ankle, that's right.
Yeah,
So
let me
he got
see.
rolled up. There's nothing you can do about those. When I hear like guys having non-contact injuries like Travis Hunter, that's where I'm
Yeah.
kind of like,
Nikhil Harry. Najee Harris had the Achilles injury for them, for
okay.
the Chargers as well.
And those are bad too. Have you ever seen like how they repair an Achilles? It's
Yes,
it's
the
awful.
yeah, he's having surgery. Joel had the surgery on the high ankle, but no, Jason Tatum tore his or ruptured his Achilles. I think a rupture and a tear are different though, aren't they?
Well, a tear could be partial, and I think a rupture is just like the both ends just,
Yeah, torn is partial and ruptured is complete.
yeah, like it just you can see it snap.
Yeah. You can
I
see
don't
it on the Emily has even noticed it watching like sports with me the
yeah.
past whatever it is 6 years 7 years we've been together. She's like, oh, like I'm noticing the injuries like when they happen, like the Jaden Daniels like dislocated elbow at the very like as soon as it happened. I was like, oh, I think it was a lower body, and she's like, no, it was his elbow, and they show the replay. I'm like, oh, and she's like, yeah, that's like he's got something going on there with the elbow and
Again,
dislocate. I told her later I had a dislocated elbow.
he okay, so there's another good example, like you can say, "Oh, that's just like a freak thing," but hold on a second. That dude's skinny, number 1. So, how much does having some more muscle mass and strength in his situation help to kind of prevent that kind of thing from happening?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's
Well, he's
tough.
6'4", 210 pounds, and he's 24 years old. So the
I would
issue,
say he's probably more like 195. But still 6'4", 200, 210 is not, that's still very, very
yeah.
like
Well,
being told.
the issue is he should have never been in the game. I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020, right? But if you're 38
Right.
to 7, you're down 31 points in the fourth quarter. They punt the ball, they get the ball back, and they go, oh, you know what? We're going to put him in harm's way. He needs to tell the offensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, the head coach of the Commies, right? Needs to tell that the offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, hey, I don't want our quarterback getting hurt. We're going to lose this football game. As much as I don't want to lose the game, we're at home. We're going to lose the game. We're going to bench our quarterback. If they go, hey, is there a reason why? You answered the question. Yeah, you know what? The game was out of reach. I don't want to start quarterback getting hurt. We have enough injuries. Now they're going to be without him most likely for the rest of the season. They say he's not going to have surgery here. I
No,
just
he's
read
not
it
having
5 hours.
surgery.
So that's great. but he's going to get reevaluated during their week 12 bye in a couple of weeks. They're out of it. They're 3-6. There's no chance,
Yeah.
right? And if he didn't get hurt, maybe they have a chance. But knee sprain 2 games, hamstring injury, you were going back to it. It wouldn't hurt to have him bulk up a little bit. My guy Drake May, right, looks a little bit more bulkier than he did last year. Caleb Williams looks like he put on a little bit of weight.
Just think like if you get that guy to 225 maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
he's not losing his abilities by weight. Everyone's like, oh, like, in the NFL, these guys are like, oh, I lost weight and I feel so much better. I would debate that, you know, you you didn't learn how to appropriately use that muscle that you gained, and you did it in the wrong manner. If your response is, oh, I feel faster, because we know that when built appropriately, mass equals gas. And I don't mean that in the sense of like the more protein you eat the more you fart. I mean
Yeah.
that in the sense of when
Yeah,
you
you got
put
more of a
on,
motor. Yeah.
yes, you're putting supercharger on the motor. So again, if you're not doing the band work, then the bolts and the tires and all those things are going to burn out
Right.
fast, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're not training, if you're not doing your speed work or your plyo work, right, you're not going
Or your
to.
recovery stuff. I remember Greg Kittle had said this. I think it was on the Theo Vaughn podcast a while back, maybe a couple seasons ago, because he spends his off seasons in Nashville, and he said, I put like a recovery tank or whatever it was in my own house so I could leave the facility and spend more time at home, but still get in what I need to get in.
Right.
But I'm just
You
home
know,
already.
if I was the big one that everyone was talking about a couple weeks ago was Scatterboot. If
Yeah.
I if I was him, okay, I would spend the off season getting inhumanly strong, not because I think that's going to make him a better athlete than he already is. 'Cause the dude can do a standing backflip, like, he's a great
Yeah.
athlete, right? He
Yeah.
has great
Yeah.
contact balance, all these different things. But
5'11",
I
listed at 215. I feel like he's 225.
I think that you take a guy like that, because I don't know that they're ever gonna, although I think he should be, I don't know that they're gonna look at him as the guy back. I think he's a complementary power back, right? I think he goes and he gets as strong as humanly possible for him, and he puts on 10, 15 pounds of muscle, not because it's going to make him a better football player, but which it will, it's just a side effect, but it allows him to handle the beating of his style a lot better than it would if he didn't have that muscle, right? And again, when we talk about, okay, well, what about like, these guys that go and get strong, but it doesn't transfer to the field. Well, power in essence is your ability to show your strength quickly. So if you're not doing the dynamic stuff, then yes, that stuff's not going to happen. So again, there's, you can sit back and say all these different things. I don't know that his injury makes a difference, but maybe he never ends up in that situation because he just runs that guy over instead of getting, what it was probably like a hip drop tackle. I think that put him in that position.
Mhm.
But I just think like, look at like Allstott. Like, did he ever get hurt besides concussions? Like,
I don't know, actually. Well, I will say that they had the fibula injury, so it wasn't just like the ankle itself, but it was a fibula. So then some people are saying, is there going to be issues with him, with Scadaboo's long-term ability to get back out there because of the fibula, not just an ankle? And I mean, you have to, I imagine, for at least the rest of this season or this year and into at least probably January before he really is able to start training again. Lower
yeah,
body, lower body. Yeah.
yeah,
Mike Allstott had a career-ending injury in 2007. First sustained a herniated disc in his neck 2003, which required surgery to fuse a vertebrae. Initial injury led to concerns about his career, but returned to play until another injury forced him to miss entire seventh season and prompted his retirement in early 2000. Yeah,
prior to
this looks like
that,
a, yep.
like, and that guy was just slinging it like nobody's business. These the bigger guys tend to the bigger, shorter guys tend to have longer careers. These offensive linemen, they're automatically, just statistically, they're gonna tear an ACL at some point because of how tall they are.
Yeah.
It's just a mass.
He's listed as 6'1", 248. Dude, he looked like he was 275.
Yeah. So, and a lot of that's, the shoulder pads and the neck roll too, but
Right, right. I think if I ever came back as a football player, I'd wear the neck pad,
yeah,
the neck
I
roll.
think, again, like, you're never gonna go wrong. It's just always gonna come back to strength. I think in any of these situations, like, I know because I've seen it. I've seen guys that are freaks and they did not train hard or at all hardly, you know? And those guys would get hurt. As freaky as they were, they would still get hurt. And from my perspective, again, maybe I was just incredibly lucky, but I never got hurt.
Yep. Just focusing on strength. Yeah.
And again, I played at a decently high level for a long time. So it's like, you know, and again, there's a lot of guys that they have that work ethic. And, I don't think Miles Garrett gets hurt that often because he puts in the work. There are guys that do get hurt and they put in the work too. But I think
Who
a
was
lot
it?
of it,
Who was it? Who did you say? I'm sorry.
Miles Garrett,
But yeah. No, I don't see
he's
him
been,
getting hurt a lot.
on and off, but
Yeah.
again, for the most part, like, it's just one of those things.
To go back to it, Mike Allstott only played in 4 games in 2003. That is the only year out of his 11 seasons that he didn't hit at least 13 games. He had 13 one year, 14 another year, 15 another year, and after that he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 11 years where he played every single game. So I mean, it
Again,
was
so what are we
yeah,
talking about in Mike Allstock? A complementary back with
right,
work done, right?
yep,
So you've got
yep,
your power guy and you've got your stat back type of guy, speed guy,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I think that would be how you view. And I don't even know, like, I could even care less to talk about football players because it's just whatever. I just know from experience, like, I can look at that and say, if you're going to be a complimentary power back, it would behoove you to get as strong as you can. Because he even admitted that he didn't work out at all in high school.
yeah,
Scatterby didn't start training hard until he was in college. So it's just, again, I'm not saying that injury came about because of his lack somewhere. But if you're going to play with that type of style and tenacity, which people love, and that's why everybody, like, adores him, right? Because he's psycho. I see more memes about him having CTE than I do about him scoring touchdowns, right?
right, yep,
And so if you're gonna play that way, it would make a lot more sense to be 235. You do it the right way and to get stronger. Now, the videos I've seen of him training are in a CrossFit gym. So,
I was looking up to see who the Giants strength and conditioning guy is and to see
he's
if
not
he
gonna be
came.
there next year.
You don't think so?
Daboll's gonna get fired. There's no way. I'm surprised they haven't fired him
I
already.
think Dayball will stay because Scattaboo went down and Malik Neighbors went down, and I think ownership maybe had a hand in signing Dangerous Wilson. Well, I mean, going into it, just looking at this is from last year. Moreno, I don't know, was their coach. Frank Pereno is the team's director of strength and conditioning. I don't know who their strength and conditioning coach is now, though.
And again, I'm not saying that, like, any injuries is gonna be, you know, prevented or caused by a strength conditioning coach because a lot of the guys in the NFL, probably 50% of those guys have their own personal strength coaches. There's no way to say. Um, but I know how I would do it. Those guys would be in there doing the band work at the after practice and the strength stuff earlier in the day, and they'd be doing all the recovery stuff. It would be mandatory. You have to do the extra work if you want to be the best.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was looking up. His name's Drew Wilson. Is the director of strength and performance for the New York Giants, and he came from who was the coach in Kansas? Oh, I'm sorry, who was the coach at Springfield College, 2001, 2004?
I I I don't.
I have
I've
no
never even
idea.
heard of Springfield College.
That's where John Cena played. I think he played. No, he didn't play with him. Mike DeLong. I have no idea what this is. Anyway, I was just thinking, like, we were talking about, like, before we got on here, like, connecting everyone together, and I'm sure that group of people is definitely all connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was at Springfield for quite some time. But anyway, 84 to 2015. Anyway, yeah, it all goes back to strength. And Scadaboo and anyone else who gets those injuries that are going to be long term, you got to get strong as shit to be able to play in a sport like that. And if you want to stay on this earth as long as you can, you got to be super strong still. You're not having to play a power sport. Your power sport is life.
I'd be doing neck every day. I'd probably be doing traps every other day. I'd be crushing triceps just from all the stiff arming. Like there's just there's so much I think that gets
Yep. You got me on
left.
a deload week too, where I'm like, oh man, I want to go like run through a wall right now and just go work out, but I'm going to
Yeah.
walk instead because the body needs rest.
I
I
gave
have to
you and
tell
Emily
myself.
the same deload so you guys could
Yes,
enjoy
I
it
saw
together.
that. It was very nice. Very nice of you. She every single day she goes, huh, we have the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I imagine that he did that on purpose. I'm
It's
not
yes,
working out at nighttime next week. No more,
it's a
no more
deload, so
subscriptions.
really
Yeah, I'm gonna
millions
start
of people
working
do.
out morning to or mid morning to lunch workouts are back on. The Texas weather is back to being appropriate. Oh, I'm
Nice.
sorry, it's 84 degrees. Never mind. Next week is going to be a little
It's
bit
gonna
of fall.
snow here on Monday, bro.
Hell no, dude. You're gonna be
And
sitting in your cold tub again, or you're away from the cold
I
tubs?
just started 2 weeks ago. I just started
He's
doing that again.
back. He's back. We should set a goal of something that we don't like doing. I know cold tub is like you like doing it, but it's like it's another thing you got to do.
Man, the problem, like, I think about the ideal cold plunge, right?
Yeah.
The
Is that
ideal
first
cold
thing?
plunge is a nice, beautiful tub that's, probably got some like blue lights in it, and it's in direct sunlight, and it's the middle of the day, 80 degrees outside. You get in the cold tub, but that warm sun is hitting you at the same time. That's the ideal cold plunge. Not it's 40 degrees outside, the wind is blowing 800 miles an hour, there's leaves in your tub, and you just have to get in it and
Mm-hmm.
and kind of deal with it. And I for a lot of people would say, well, that is the ideal because you don't want to do it. I don't want to do it either way, but I know that the benefits for me are there. And a lot of people will say, don't do it after you train. Well, I had my best results in when I was in Texas, and I was doing it after I trained, so I started doing that again and I start feeling better, and so whatever.
Well, shit. I think that my goal should be maybe to do the band work then, more band work.
More band
And,
work.
and you mentioned this just dawned on me that I never responded. I think the reason I obviously I don't know for sure, but I think the reason why Louis never posted anything as the on accessories and posted more box squats is I just think it goes back to like it's fucking badass to see someone putting a ton of plates up in a matter of a second or two,
Yeah,
and
you can
it's
so you
showing you the fruits of your labor, right?
right,
Like, hey, this is it,
you can find the accessory stuff,
right?
but
But it's
what
buried in
I'm
there.
speaking about, like, you'll
Yeah,
see reverse hyper, glute ham raise all day, but you can't it'd be very hard for you to find someone from West Side doing, like, Bulgarian split squats or safety bar split squats or RDLs, like, they did those things, they're just not sexy, but those are the things that build, right? So, I gotta go get my kids.
for sure. Right, exactly. Well, Justin has to go get his kids. This has been. I was looking up if DeFranco was connected to anyone else. I know he's connected to someone with the Lions, so I was hoping to. I was looking at their injuries
He
and seeing if
was they offered him he got offered the Giants at one point or the Jets, one or the other at one point, but he said no.
I think what he does is amazing where he's at now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of their guys is I think it's Corey is the assistant guy who used to be with the DeFranco training systems, and then he went
Mhm.
to the Lions. Anyway, this episode, of course, brought to you by Common Athlete Performance Coaching. If you have a question, please feel free to DM us. Our Instagram has not been as active lately. We need to get back on that. So that's for me and Justin to get after. And yeah, everyone have a great weekend, and comment, share, like. We can help you out. If you have any questions on topics or possible topics if you want us to cover, just let us know. All right. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.